Starting off, we have Vin Diesel. While filming Fast and Furious 8, Dwayne Johnson shared a since-deleted Instagram post to criticize some of his male co-stars in 2016. Some conduct themselves as stand-up men and true professionals, while others don't, he wrote. Later, it was reported that this criticism was aimed at Vin Diesel, something Dwayne all but confirmed when he thanked pretty much everyone from the Fast and Furious franchise on Instagram, except for Vin Diesel. While The Rock later told Entertainment Tonight that the feud was the result of different philosophies, Vin, who typically seemed eager to shut down any talk of their feud, shed light on their relationship. Dwayne has only got one Vin in his life, he told USA Today, before explaining how he paved the way for Johnson as the first multicultural megastar in Hollywood. Dwayne Johnson only has one big brother in the film world, and that's me. I'm always rooting Dwayne on. Hey, he can support him from afar without wanting to work or be near him, which I think is the case here. Up next is John Cena. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson was the face of WWE in the 90s until his Hollywood career took off, and John Cena had his own WWE takeover as The Rock switched to movies. Now this then led to a feud between the two. Although they are best friends today, The Rock told Jimmy Kimmel that before John became one of his best friends, the former WWE rivals had real problems with each other. In 2011, John was mouthing off to fans about how The Rock hadn't been in the ring in 8 years, and questioned whether or not The Rock even cared about the business. John then got even more angry when The Rock didn't attend the 15th anniversary show or make an appearance at WrestleMania because he was filming. Now The Rock says in an old clip that John was popping off at the mouth. Now, John said all of that, of course, before he himself began focusing on acting. He was asked about this retrospective hypocrisy in an interview with Gorilla Position a decade later, and he apologized, saying he was wrong. "I called him out as someone who had tunnel vision in the WWE and didn't understand the process that when you make a movie, you're not allowed to do anything else." But hey, at least they were able to make up. Then there's Randy Orton. Wrestler Randy Orton made it known that he didn't like The Rock when he was asked about an upcoming WrestleMania match between Dwayne Johnson and John Cena during a 2011 ESPN interview. After initially using the question to slam Johnson for stepping away from wrestling and focusing on acting, Randy criticized The Rock's abilities. "I think Cena is wittier and can go off the cuff. Cena writes his own stuff while The Rock has stuff written for him. It all just comes down to who you are in the ring and what kind of performer you are in the ring, and I think Cena is 10 times the performer in the ring than The Rock is." Ouch. Now later on recalling this interview, Randy revealed that he actually got in trouble for putting all that out there. Moving on to Kevin Nash. For those of you who don't know, there's a long-standing legend in wrestling that Kevin Nash wasn't thrilled with The Rock after he went off script during a promo. According to rumors, The Rock improvised the famous line, "Big Daddy Bleep," which caught Kevin off guard. More importantly, Kevin allegedly felt that the insult made his character look weak. He went on to claim that Johnson tried to manage their matches too much, reportedly asking him, "What one thing do you want to do here?" Kevin, though, has more recently said that he respects Johnson, telling Daily DDT in 2019 that he credits The Rock for being the wrestler turned actor who opened the door for all of us to Hollywood. However, it seems clear that there was some bad blood between the two. Now we have Tyrese Gibson. When The Rock and Vin Diesel were fighting, Tyrese Gibson made it clear that he wasn't involved in any drama. In a now deleted post on Instagram, he explained how he felt about The Rock. "He's my brother, we have never had a problem and will never have a problem." Now that didn't last for too long though, as Fast and Furious 9 was pushed back a year, and shortly after it was revealed that The Rock had scored his solo spin-off, Hobbs and Shaw. Tyrese wasn't having any of this though, and he slammed him on Instagram for making the Fast and Furious franchise about you, and questioned whether it would be another #Baywatch, which was a rebooted movie that The Rock starred in that flopped at the box office. While Hobbs and Shaw would take the top spot at the box office though, Tyrese posted another public shot at Johnson for the movie's less than stellar opening weekend numbers compared to other Fast and Furious movies. But when the film started to pick up steam globally, Johnson made sure to let let certain people know by tweeting, "Remember, the best way to shut the mouth of a clown is to flex with success and a smile." Tyrese later admitted regret over how he aired out his grievances, but he has yet to publicly apologize. Let's talk about Shawn Michaels. Now, it's not exactly clear what happened between Shawn Michaels and Dwayne Johnson, but there are a couple of different accounts that suggest these wrestling legends never really liked each other behind the scenes, which might explain why they never faced each other in the ring. Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer newsletter suggested that the feud started when Shawn reportedly disrespected The Rock's promoter grandmother in the 80s. It's said that as The Rock was rising in the WWE ranks, Shawn did all he could to bring him down. But now that plan might have backfired. Now, when The Rock became the WWE's biggest star and got to wrestle whomever he wanted, Shawn was never considered. "I was never ever interested in working with him, to be honest with you," Johnson told WWE.com. On to TJ Perkins. Professional wrestler TJ Perkins took a shot at The Rock on Twitter and, well, it didn't end well. When TJ was asked if there was a motto or quote he lived by every day, he gave an uncensored version of the Nike slogan, "Just effing do it." Now, another follower then suggested a quote from The Rock himself, "Always be the hardest worker in the room." Now, it's here that TJ appeared to give Johnson a jab, tweeting alongside a wink emoji. That goes without question, but real ones don't say it out loud. Yeah, now The Rock didn't really appreciate that and made sure that TJ knew it. He tweeted in response by saying, "Yeah, that Rock fella has a big mouth. I've never heard of you, CJ, but I wish you the best of luck in the wrestling biz, champ." Then there's the Red Room cast and crew. This week, the entertainment news outlet The Wrap reported that The Rock was up to 8 hours late to set while filming the upcoming Christmas-themed action movie Red One, meaning that the crew had to shoot around him on some occasions. Now, the outlet also reported that the Red One budget has grew way past $250 million as a result of several production issues, including The Rock's lateness. It also reported that he tried to save time on other sets by peeing in Voss water bottles, which upset some crew members. And yeah, no kidding. An anonymous source that The Wrap said knows the actor well said on set away from his trailer, if he needs to pee, he doesn't go to the public bathroom, he pees in a Voss water bottle and his team or a PA has to dispose of it. Yeah, that sounds like an absolute nightmare. Next up is Ahmed Johnson. To say that Tony Norris aka Ahmed Johnson can't stand Dwayne Johnson would not be entirely accurate, but the former wrestler certainly hasn't been shy about sharing gossip about his colleague. In an interview with the Work and Punch Productions in 2016, Ahmed shed more light on his locker room scuffle with The Rock. "I didn't like the fact that he was getting a little too cocky for me and we had a match coming up, matter of fact that same night. We was going to do the match and I was willing to do his high spots, but he wasn't willing to do all mine. We got into a little confrontation back there." And finally we have Rebecca Ferguson. Now, this is just speculation, so don't take it to heart, but in 2024 Rebecca Ferguson claimed that an unnamed co-star screamed at her. On the Rain podcast, Rebecca explained, "I did a film with an absolute idiot of a co-star, and this human being was so insecure and angry because this person couldn't get the scenes out. I would cry walking off set. This person would look at me in front of the whole crew and say, 'You call yourself an actor? This is what I have to work with. What is this?'" Yikes. Now, the internet has done some sleuthing to try to figure out who she was talking about, and one of the most popular theories was that she was talking about The Rock. Now, Rebecca worked with him on the 2014 film Hercules. However, he was also the first person to publicly support her after the comments were made, stating on Twitter, "Hate seeing this, but love seeing her stand up to BS. Rebecca was my guardian angel sent from heaven on our set. I love that woman. I'd like to find out who did this." But him making this statement actually made fans more suspicious of him, thinking he was covering up something. So, was it The Rock? I guess we'll never know, but some people are convinced that it was him.
David Beckham and Mark Wahlberg's drama is a long-winded one. So the soccer legend filed a lawsuit against F45 Fitness, which the Oscar-nominated actor is part owner of. For context, Mark Wahlberg invested in the company in 2019 and became the chief branding officer in 2023. Now, during that time, David Beckham entered into a promotional agreement with the fitness brand through his company, DB Ventures Limited. I think this was around 2021. But on April 21st, 2024, it was reported that David Beckham was suing F45 or F45 after claiming that he never received the $10 million he was offered in contract negotiations when partnering with the brand. The complaint said that the Australian-based fitness company agreed to pay Beckham $1.5 million a year, along with shares of stock in the company, which would be available to him 6 months and again 12 months after the company went public. However, the Inter Miami owner's attorneys alleged that, well, the company failed to transfer and register the shares until about 8 months after the agreed upon date. His attorneys also said the shares were worth about $9.3 million less than they were in January of 2022. So Beckham is suing for $9.3 million for his loss of shares, plus an additional $5 million. Beckham is also seeking $4.5 million for payments he alleged he was to receive for the remainder of his term. Now, the company's lawyers have responded to Beckham's complaint in court documents, denying multiple allegations, and they claim that he has not fully performed his obligations. Until we know more, this seems like a mess where both guys might be in the wrong. So back when Mark was known as the famed rapper Marky Mark, he apparently got into it with Eminem of all people. So Eminem opened up on the feud, explaining that it all came to a head in 1999 on TRL. Speaking with Anthony Bozza in the book Whatever You Say I Am, The Life and Times of Eminem, he explained he was told by MTV that he was going to be on the show with Wahlberg, and they were like, he'd appreciate it if we don't call him Marky Mark. So Eminem recalled Wahlberg arriving and saying, what, is there supposed to be some sort of effing tension here or something? And Eminem was like, I pretended like I don't hear him and whatnot, SHIT. Then we're on the air and I'm like, we'll just stand around here like one big fun bunch. So I threw a jab at him. Eminem and Wahlberg reportedly continued to have a dislike for one another as the years went on, but apparently this is all simmered out now. They settled it in 2017. In an issue of The Hollywood Reporter, Mark Wahlberg revealed that he used to have a feud with Leonardo DiCaprio. He says like he almost did get cast in 1995's The Basketball Diaries because Leo wanted him off the court. Leo was like, over my dead effing body. Marky Mark's not gonna be in this effing movie. Wahlberg admitted he deserved that treatment. Because we'd had a thing. I didn't even realize it, but apparently I was a bit of a phallic thing to him at a charity basketball game. So he was like, this effing a-hole is not going to be in this movie. But Wahlberg managed to impress the Growing Pains star with his acting chops. So I come in and I do the audition and I kind of look at him and he kind of looks at me. And then we do a scene and they're like, this effing dude's pretty good, right? Next thing you know, boom, we're hanging out. Nah. With all that we know about Leo's creepy dating practices, sounds like Mark was ready to butt heads with him from the get-go. So out of all the people in the world, Mark got into a fitness feud with famed TV personality Dr. Oz. The two got into it after Dr. Oz shared his thoughts on breakfast, saying that it isn't an essential meal, and explained his approach to intermittent fasting. Wahlberg, who was a big proponent of getting in a meal both before and after his early morning workouts, disagreed with Oz's perspective when asked about it by TMZ. And thus, a heated back and forth social media feud began. The men challenged each other to a workout to see if they could keep up with one another, despite their different viewpoints. And finally, Wahlberg shared that he and Oz met up face to face to do just that. He said, I don't think he knew what he was getting himself into, but he was a trooper. I squashed him like a grape. Poor thing, he didn't know what was happening. Now, Dr. Oz has been proven to be a fraud time and time again, so that's not super surprising. So thanks for warning folks that he's hot air. One thing about Mark is that he is known for having a close-knit group of friends, one of which being Michael Jordan. And somebody who didn't know this? Kevin Hart. Hart and Wahlberg worked together on the film Me Time, which was not one of Wahlberg's many films to gross over $100 million at the box office. But apparently the guys had a great time together. But after Wahlberg found out that Hart had some unkind things to say about Jordan, an interview the two were in took a detour, and it was during this time that Wahlberg showed that he was not happy that Hart shaded his buddy. The beef between Hart and Jordan came to be when Hart did a stand-up comedy set at a charity event that Jordan was hosting. Between a bit too much booze, which is apparently one of his backstage requests before he does stand-up, and the need to get a laugh from the crowd, Hart went too far and might have permanently damaged his relationship with Jordan. He said, Mike still might be mad at me. True story. So while he was doing the set, he's like, nobody's laughing. It got to the point where nobody's laughing. He's looking straight at me. He's actually giving me a look like, you gonna keep on going? Like you ain't gonna stop? I don't care, I'm having a good time, I was laughing. Now Hart admitted, I may or may not have been, well, under the influence at the time. I hit him with one more, and nobody says nothing. So it got over, and he went to go see him, and he's like, what up, Mike, hey. And Hart went on to say, he shook my hand, and he squeezed it real hard, and he was like, you have a good day. Which is, Never a good sign. In 2013, a series of leaked court documents suggested that Tom Cruise had compared working on a film to being as intense as fighting in the military. It's safe to say that the statement did not go down well with Mark Wahlberg. Later down the line, he was promoting his film, Lone Survivor, which is based on actual events of the failed 2005 mission, Operation Red Wings, where Mark played the role of a Navy SEAL. Now, when he was asked about the difficulty of shooting the film, he went on an angry rant, quoting, "For actors to sit there and talk about, oh, I went to SEAL training, and I slept on the, oh, I don't give an F what you did. For somebody to sit there and say my job was as difficult as somebody in the military's? How effing dare you? When you sit in a makeup chair for 2 hours?" He added that at the end of the day, actors get to go home, go to their hotel room, and order effing chicken. Now, Tom's lawyers jumped in very quickly and claimed that he was only joking. He's a very big supporter of the troops. But the tension was very real. Back in 2014, in a moment of elation following Rob Gronkowski's touchdown against the Oakland Raiders, Patriots owner Robert Kraft went out for a high five with his boxmate, yes, you guessed it, Mark Wahlberg, and his eager fingers met, well, the wind. Not only did Wahlberg decline to participate in the high five, he also snubbed not one, but 2 shoulder pokes from a desperate Kraft, who was left hanging. It seems that even the kind of rich guys whose collar and cuffs are a different color than the rest of their shirts shan't presume to high-five Lord Wahlberg. Of course, we don't know why he denied the high five. Maybe he was just really busy paying attention to football or something. The happening has been called one of the worst screw-ups of M. Night Shyamalan's career, and of course, being a part of the production also reflected badly on Mark Wahlberg. So it's no surprise that he trashed the movie relentlessly, even though he had the lead role. At first, the plot sounds like it had potential. It follows a Philadelphia high school teacher who tries to keep his wife safe during a global crisis in which plants spread a neurotoxin that causes humans to completely act out. But it was completely ridiculous. Wahlberg himself admitted that he had no idea what was happening in the happening. He just took the role because he was tired of playing tough guys. He said, "F it, it is what it is. Effing trees, man. You can't blame me for not wanting to try to play a science teacher. At least I wasn't playing a cop or a crook." Now, the director responded to the actor's criticism in 2019, and he really took the whole thing like a champ, saying it's totally his call, however he wants to interpret it. At least he has a good attitude about it. Family relationships can be complicated, and this is no different for high-profile celebrities as well. While internal politics between family members escape public scrutiny, if you're an ordinary person, big-league Hollywood stars don't have the luxury of privacy, be it rumors or otherwise. So despite having music and acting careers and their Wahlberg's food empire, Donnie and Mark, yes, they have their separate things, they have their restaurants, but they also don't have a lot of love for each other. In August of 2014, when Donnie was set to marry Jenny McCarthy, TMZ revealed that Mark and his wife wouldn't be attending the wedding. Now, there was a lot of speculation. Is it like, are you not fans of the bride? Nope, it just turns out that the brothers aren't super duper close, and there's a lot of badness there. And finally for today, Mark appeared on The Conan Show years ago and revealed his daughter's obsession at the time with now former boy band One Direction. He was like, okay. Now, Mark being Mark, he threatened to knock the crap out of the young and blessed Harry Styles. Like, he legitimately tweeted out, if Styles doesn't watch out, he's gonna risk getting a black eye or 2. Yep, those were the days when celebrity chatter on social media was very much unregulated. Mark told Conan, "My 4-year-old's going, 'Daddy, I like Harry.' And I'm like, well, I'm gonna punch Harry in the nose when I see him." He continued to say that she pulls out pictures of Harry Styles and she's hiding the pictures in her room, and he pretends he's ripping them up and he gets jealous. And I saved his quote-unquote best line for last, but if I see that little prick, he's gonna get it. Lovely. Now, I think the most endearing part of this feud was Styles' retaliation. The UK's Daily Star reported that Harry thought this conversation was an absolute hoot, so he sent Wahlberg and his family a very special invite. Now, what did he do? Well, he sent them tickets to a show, which was, I think, super fun.
Now, starting off strong, we have Kim Cattrall. The 2 stars may have played good friends on Sex and the City, but it turns out Kim and Sarah were nowhere as close in real life. Rumors of bad blood between the 2 co-stars began when Kim refused to participate in a 3rd Sex and the City movie. Then, in an interview in 2018, Kim called out Sarah in particular. She said, "I really think she could have been nicer. I don't know what her issue is. I never have." Things escalated even further in 2018 when Sarah offered her condolences to her co-star after Kim's brother passed away, and Kim responded with a bitter Instagram post dismissing Sarah's words. "I don't need your love or support at this time, at Sarah Jessica Parker. You are not my family, you are not my friend," she posted. Now Sarah, however, dismissed the idea that there was ever a catfight in an interview with Vulture that same year. "I've always held Kim's work in high regard and always appreciative of her contributions." Now in the reboot of the show, and just like that, Kim wasn't asked to be a part of the revival, even though it features almost every series regular from the original show. Now in the season 2 finale though, Kim did join the show and reprise her role, so who knows if their relationship is better now. Then there's Anya Taylor-Joy. Okay, so these two didn't work together, but they had an extremely strange encounter that I just had to share. Actor Anya Taylor-Joy was once such a fan who approached Sarah Jessica Parker, and she was a little embarrassed by the interaction, recounting the story during an appearance on the Drew Barrymore show in November 2022. "I was going through a really bad breakup and I was like, hey, I just have to tell you, like, I've been watching you and Big and it's giving me hope," Anya explained. And she was like, "Oh, that you'll get back together?" And I was like, "No, that I will survive, that I can like move on from this and that it will be okay." Now apparently Sarah didn't take too kindly to this and said, "Okay, I'm gonna get in my car now." Of course, it remains unknown why Sarah wasn't quite sure how to respond to Anya's comments about Carrie and Big. She could have just said, "Ugh, I'm so glad," and carried on. But being caught off guard was probably the reason for this strange response, and Anya admitted to feeling pretty awkward about the exchange. The star did precursor her story by telling Barrymore, "It was a really bad moment for me," suggesting the meeting wasn't all that she hoped it would be. Yikes. Now we have Robert Downey Jr. As we all know, Robert Downey Jr. has had some substance issues, and this got in the way of his career and his relationships. Sarah Jessica Parker had a 7-year relationship with Robert, which ended in 1991. Parker said that her attempts to be the steadfast presence for Downey made her feel like a parent, though she was in her early 20s and both actors were struggling to make their names in the industry. "People around him would be dismissive of me, but I had given him stability and tried to create a steady heartbeat that allowed him to show up on time," she said. "That made me angry and embarrassed me." Downey, through a rep, told the magazine that he had great respect for Sarah. Speaking about the relationship, he said, "I was so selfish," he admitted. "I like to drink and I had a drug problem and I didn't jibe with Sarah Jessica because it's the furthest thing from what she is. Sarah Jessica would pull me out of a hangover and we'd go pick out furniture together. She is a force of nature," he said. Moving on, we have her staff. Now some of Sarah's emails were leaked and it appears that she had some specific rules for her staff. She instructs her staff household to refill a tiny 1.75 ounce container of Vaseline with a small spoon or knife for her children to use. She stresses that the refill jar can't be too big so it doesn't clutter the house, and the cutlery used to dispense the Vaseline must be hand washed using a paper towel and then go through the dishwasher. She also requests that a bottle of face wash and Neutrogena body wash be continually replenished for her son, James Wilkie, in his shower. But she insists the staff not buy multiples of anything and instead wants them to check the levels of each product daily, only replacing them once the product has completely run out. Now another email included her shopping list for Taco Tuesday, which included whatever meat goes in tacos. Yeah. Then when the New York family had pink eye, she sent the team specific instructions on how eye drops should be given to her 8-year-old twin daughters at the time, Tabitha and Marion, including how hard they should blink. Yeah. Next up is Oprah. Sarah was once on Oprah's show, and Oprah's gushing all over her, telling her how great it is that she's taking care of the family and how much work it must be. Sarah said though, without missing a beat, "I have a lot of help, I have a lot of people helping me," which of course is true. She's a multi-millionaire Hollywood celebrity, married to another multi-millionaire Hollywood celebrity, and she has her own household staff cooking and cleaning and taking care of her kids and running errands and all of that, and she wasn't afraid to admit it and give props to the mothers who don't. But Oprah wasn't having it. Oprah doesn't like it when it's pointed out that very rich, pampered celebrities have it a whole lot easier than regular people who do actual work for a living. Now Oprah kept trying to get Sarah to admit that being a mother was a lot of hard, difficult, grueling work, and Sarah just wouldn't say that. She kept saying that it's not that hard when you've got a big staff of people helping. Seems like Oprah doesn't like her for telling the truth. And finally, we have all her Sex and the City co-stars. Now fans of Sex and the City have always adored the chemistry between the show's 4 main characters, but Jessica's Carrie remained the lead throughout the duration of Sex and the City, and this was allegedly reflected in their salaries. According to Us Weekly, Sarah was reportedly earning as much as $3 million per episode, while her castmates were allegedly taking home approximately $350,000 an episode, which is just crazy. Now the spin-off, And Just Like That, sees the trio reportedly taking home $1 million per episode, proving that negotiations had moved a lot since 2004. Now during an appearance on the Origins with James Andrew Miller podcast, executive producer Michael Patrick King defended the disparity, saying, "The show doesn't exist if Sarah Jessica wasn't the blonde star of the show." I guess for Kim it didn't matter how much the raise became if there was never parody, but there was never going to be parody. Yikes. I cannot imagine doing pretty much the same amount of work as someone, but they're getting paid 10 times more than me. Now that's honestly just disgusting, and I can't believe Sarah's co-stars put up with that.
Starting off with the trouble with the 2011 Oscars, which was infamously hosted by Anne and James Franco, well, it started well before Showtime. The messy showcase has gone down in history as one of the worst Academy Award ceremonies of all time. Not the worst, but it's up there. When it came time to film stuff for the show ahead of time, Anne showed up ready to play, she was committed 110%, and James was described as being a great guy, but looked like he just woke up for a nap. Somebody described it as, you're showing up to a tennis court, one person decided that they were going to play in the US Open, the other one just wanted to play in jeans and maybe hit a couple of balls. A source who wrote for the live telecast says that he remembers hearing that the friction started when Anne decided to offer James Franco a stray acting note during rehearsals. She was like, "Hey, maybe you should try that." And he was like, "Don't tell me how to be funny." Yeah, it's no surprise they never cemented any kind of bond. Watching it was like the world's most uncomfortable blind date between the cool stoner kid and the adorable theater camp cheerleader. Apparently they've, kissed, made up now, but that all just sounds like the worst combination of creative hell possible. I'm fully aware that quoting Howard Stern is low-hanging fruit, but he's the walking definition of someone who has managed to make a career out of being a hater, and well, that was relevant for today. During an interview with James Franco, he said, "Everyone sort of hates Anne Hathaway, and I've explained that I do too, and I don't even know why sometimes. She's just so affected and actressy that even when she wins an award, she's out of breath. And then she has a standard joke that sounds like it's been written for her, and it all seems so scripted and acted. She comes off like the goody two-shoes actress and is just sort of fun to hate her." Howard went on to add, "Hate is a strong word, but I dislike her even though she's a great actress. Is that accurate?" James was like, "Well, I'm not an expert on Hathaway haters, but I think that's what maybe triggers it." Wow, talk about the pot calling the kettle black. Not only that, but he had the audacity to talk about the disastrous Oscars hosting together, making it sound like she was the one who came begging to become friends with him again, instead of the other way around. Let the history books show he's the one who begged her to host with him. In the years leading up to Judd Apatow's Knocked Up, Anne Hathaway had proven herself to be one of the industry's most exciting rising stars. Seeing as before this she'd done Brokeback Mountain, Devil Wears Prada, Princess Diaries, she was becoming more and more sought after by the minute. Her prowess, her undeniable charm, they captivated this director's attention, and he was like, I think she's the perfect lead for my rom-com. But she backed out last minute after part of the script was like, not meshing with her. This was the scene that depicted a woman explicitly giving birth, and Anne was like, I think this is unnecessary to the storyline. In her own words, I turned down Knocked Up because it was going to show a vagina. Not mine, but somebody else's. And I didn't believe that it was necessary to the story. Now, yes, the director did say there's no bad blood now, but apparently back in the day that wasn't the case. Leaving a director scrambling last minute isn't the girl boss move Anne thought it was, and it only added to her diva reputation, which I'll touch on more in a moment. Looking back, movies like Knocked Up were kind of like the epitome of early 2000s romantic comedies that were very much a product of the times. And while a lot of folks still appreciate such films, yeah, you can't deny the oddly unsettling storylines, the dated language, all of which perfectly reflect some of the era's biggest shortcomings regarding societal acceptance and inequality. Richard Lawson of the Atlantic Wire told Hollywood.com that Hathaway has this theater kid thing where she adopts the mood of every situation she's in. Rude and bawdy on Chelsea Lately, poised and classy at the Oscars, but wildly overcompensating every single time. Now he continued on like that wasn't all he had to say. She always seems like she's performing, and her favorite act is this overstated humility and graciousness. On the other hand, writer Victoria Wellman is one half of the Oratory Laboratory, a site that helps craft clients' speeches. And part of Anne's problem is just the actress is one of those people who doesn't really come off as sincere. Take for example her award show speeches. I've talked about it a bit today. The whole point of award shows is that nobody knows who's going to win, and the audience counts on that element of surprise to be part of a winner's speech. But Anne's words of gratitude came off as way too rehearsed, not the usual like, oh my god! And the more you rehearse something, the more kind of presumptuous it comes across. Like, yes, we are used to seeing actors act, but we do want to see a glimpse of their personality. So when it came to the Golden Globe speech, it was just very word for word. So, is she just a phony after all? Or is she someone who wants desperately to fit in and she's trying her best? I'll let you decide in the comments. I don't think Matt Lauer is on the top of anybody's most liked list these days, and it's pretty obvious why. But hey, back in the day when this man was still employed on the Today Show, he had a pretty icky interaction with Annie that needs to be noted. So, 2012, Anne's on a press tour for Les Mis, and a photographer crouched down as she got out of a car and he got an upskirt photo, which was a horrifically sleazy thing for this pap to do. But then Anne was a guest on Today, and Matt was like, that's a you problem. Specifically, he opened it with, like, nice to see you, and then, seen a lot of you lately. Now, Anne did her best. She tried to play it off as though he's talking about the oversaturated press cycle. She's just like, yeah, you know, I'd be happy to stay home, but the film, like, she's doing her best. And Buddy's like, let's just get it out of the way. You had a little wardrobe malfunction the other night. And like, he raised his eyebrows, like, she's right there. And the guy's just like, what's the lesson learned from something like that? Other than you keep smiling, which you always do. It was just so icky and gross. Ugh, men. Now, Anne's response was very, very graceful. She was like, it was obviously an unfortunate incident, and it kind of made me sad on two accounts. One was that I was very sad where we live in an age where somebody takes a picture of another person in a vulnerable moment, and rather than delete it and do the decent thing, they sell it. And she's like, I'm sorry that we live in a culture that commodifies the sexuality of unwilling participants. And she's like, that brings us back to Les Mis. Like, very good. The fact that the conversation even acknowledges the fact that what happened to her was a violation of privacy, but an attempt to humiliate her for the fact of possessing a female body? Ugh. It just hurts my brain. Matt frames the conversation as though what happened to her was an error on her part that she's got to learn a lesson from. And just his way of doing it and his instinct to raise the question in the first place reinforces this awful ideology where women's bodies are both inherently humiliating and public property. It's this ideology that helps perpetrate a culture in which men can just, harass and do whatever they want to women in private and get away with it. And well, now that we know about Matt, I'm not surprised. Anne has had a couple of other stories come out about her supposed diva behavior, by the way. For one instance, she reportedly sent a list of demands before agreeing to attend the Pink Party Gala, which was a cancer research charity event. According to Radar Online, an email to those working the gala says her team was getting really concerned that people would try to approach her for photos and autographs. Now, they've said like other celebrities who would be attending didn't make those kinds of demands. One source told In Touch that everybody was asked to not talk to her. And apparently the event staff was like, yeah, I know in the past our hosts have mingled at the party, but everybody's different and we want to respect her space. And sure, people respected her space, but it seemed like she still wasn't having a good time. The source revealed she was so rude and acted like a bitch to a couple of people that she did speak to. She just sat there rolling her eyes all night. Not a good move, girl. Anne was apparently a nightmare to deal with for an on-set chef, setting back her breakfast multiple times. For context, she was shooting a commercial on the Paramount lot and she wanted to order an English muffin, a poached egg, and an avocado for breakfast. TMZ reported that she sent the dish back not one, not two, 4 times. So the first time the meal was brought to her, apparently the poached egg was too runny. So sent it back. And then the next time, now her English muffin is too cold because it was sitting there waiting for the egg to be poached. Okay, I guess she has to have all of her food together at the same time in order to eat. So then her English muffin was taken away, but maybe she just didn't eat it? Nevertheless, it looks like it went to waste for no good reason. Now, 4th time around, the meal is perfect. But apparently it took so long that now Anne was in the mood for a fried egg. So she wasted this entire meal that she originally wanted just to change her mind. Not it. I don't like wasting food. So I know I've mentioned a couple of other journalists earlier today, but then there's still some notable ones that have also had some things to say about Anne, such as Anne Friedman, pun not intended, who is well known for being an incredible journalist. This one stood out to me. She took a poll amongst peers about their opinions on Anne, and the results were not nice. She's that theater kid with good intentions, but secretly annoys the shit out of you. You want to be excited for her, and like you are, but deep down you're just rolling your eyes. And also, I think someone told her she was America's sweetheart and she believed it. One friend in particular placed Annie in the category of really affected drama queens, saying I can imagine her non-ironically yelling, acting! In other words, she's always on stage, always calculated, not someone whom you'd want to party with or share your deepest secrets. If you can't trust her, that's not good. So way back before Margot Robbie was in the conversation to become the iconic Barbie we all know and love today, Anne was announced as being attached to the project, but then got ditched when it transferred from Sony to Warner. I wonder what the execs at Warner had against her. unless they know something we don't. And how about we end today with Annie's poor choice and an ex-boyfriend, Raffaello Folieri. He went to prison in 2008 for 4.5 years after he pleaded guilty in Manhattan federal court to 14 counts of conspiracy, wire fraud, and money laundering. Anne didn't break up with him until right before he went to prison. And you've gotta question her ethics for not breaking up with him sooner. How did she not know this? How did she not notice the guy was a scam artist? I feel like that would have been obvious.
John Schneider entered the country music scene in the 1980s, but you also might recognize him from the action comedy TV show Dukes of Hazzard. John played one of the main characters, Bo Duke. John Schneider's first ever country album he released hit the stands and made it into the top 10 of the US country Billboard charts, peaking at spot 8. He had even better standing with his cover/remake of the Elvis hit Now or Never, which peaked at number 4 on the US country chart and 14 on the Hot 100 chart. All that intro to say, this guy is well established in the country music scene, and he is not happy that his territory has someone new coming in. In fact, he compared Beyoncé to something weird, definitely not something I would have picked myself. John Schneider was being interviewed on One America News Network, and soon the interview shifted to the recent controversy of an Oklahoma radio station refusing to play Beyoncé's new country music when a fan requested it. The interviewer asked a question about Schneider's opinion on how the lefties in the entertainment scene have to seize control over every area in entertainment. Schneider agreed with the host, and that's where the odd comparison came in. John said, "They've got to make their mark, just like a dog in a dog walk park. You know, every dog has to mark every tree, right? So that's what's going on here." That's right, John just compared Beyoncé to a dog peeing on a tree. Obviously, Beyoncé fans and people in general thought the comparison was a little bit rude. Many people on social media began pointing out that Beyoncé had done country songs before and was revisiting that era, others saying you can't gatekeep an entire genre of music. John did respond to the public criticism, saying that the phrase was just something he has always used. Safe to say that John Schneider and Beyoncé will not be collaborating in the future. Kenny Chesney is incredibly successful in the country music scene. He has had multiple songs in the top 10 US Billboard Hot Country Songs charts and has received many awards for his contributions to the genre. His connection to Beyoncé comes from a 2016 award show in which Beyoncé performed a country song alongside the Dixie Chicks, and Kenny's seemingly unimpressed face was caught on camera. Beyoncé has now stated that a main reason why she had written the country album was because she felt so unwelcome at the 2016 performance. When that info dropped, fans were quick to bring this Kenny video back as an example of why. In 2016, after receiving so much scrutiny online for his reaction, Kenny apologized and later clarified that he does love Beyoncé's music. Kid Rock is not a Beyoncé fan and hasn't been for a while. Kid Rock, or Robert James Ritchie, began his career and made it to mainstream media in the rap rock genre, but has now switched over to some more country rock vibes. The singer has gone on record criticizing Beyoncé's music and her appearance, saying she doesn't really do much for him. His criticisms came from his 2015 Rolling Stone interview in which he said he was flabbergasted by Beyoncé's level of fame. He said, "Beyoncé, to me, doesn't have a purple rain, but she's the biggest thing on earth. How can you be that big without at least one Sweet Home Alabama or old time rock and roll?" He's right. By this point, Beyoncé had only released songs like Single Ladies and Halo and Crazy in Love and more, songs that have had no lasting impact on pop culture at all, and no one remembers at all either. Of course, fans of the Queen Bee weren't happy and began to swarm the comment sections of Kid Rock's Instagram with bee emojis, to which I will admit Kid Rock had a funny response, posting a picture of a can of bug repellent. Do I agree with him? No. Was that a funny response? A little. These comments were said almost a decade ago, but I don't think we will ever see music from this pair. Accidental country artist Lil Wayne will probably not be collaborating with Beyoncé anytime soon. Let me explain. Lil Wayne is a hip-hop artist. He did release one song called Ya Dig that some people say has a country vibe, but it's not labeled as a country song by any means. Lil Wayne mainly has a feud with Jay-Z, but since Beyoncé is married to Jay-Z, she's also kind of included in it. In one song, It's Good, Lil Wayne insinuates that Jay-Z is living
living off Beyoncé's money and that he might kidnap her, it's a choice. So that's the mini feud between him and Beyoncé. The country part comes in an odd way. At the American Music Awards, Lil Wayne won for the favorite rap/hip-hop song category for his track I'm the One, so he won one category. Yet in the male received 5 awards, the other 4 for the country genre. The award show accidentally sent him the awards meant for Little Big Town, the famous country band. It was a mix-up. Lil Wayne had nothing to do with their music, though if he were to collaborate with a country performer, he might choose them over Beyoncé. We probably won't see a country collaboration between Carrie Hilson and Beyoncé anytime soon, though Hilson has done country collabs in the past. Carrie is an American singer and songwriter that mainly performs the R&B genre, but has done some country once upon a time. She collaborated with country music stars Sugarland to perform the song Think by Aretha Franklin. While that country collab seemed right up her alley, one with Beyoncé probably wouldn't be, as Carrie does not seem too fond of the Cowboy Carter writer. In 2009, Carrie released a remix of her single Turning Me On. The original actually featured Lil Wayne, the remix didn't though, in which she rewrote the lyrics to the hook in Beyoncé's song Irreplaceable. Lyrics in Beyoncé's song are to the left, it's that one, and the lyrics in Carrie's version are you can dance, she can sing, but she needs to move it to the left, she needs some babies. In a 2013 interview with Juicy Magazine, Carrie allegedly refused to hold a magazine with Beyoncé featured on the cover, so yeah, they weren't doing great then, and they probably aren't now either. Though Keisha Cole is not a country music artist herself, she does seem to love the genre and actively wants to encourage artists breaking into it. The Grammy-nominated singer once helped an up-and-coming country music talent, Tony Evans Jr., get access to big-name producers after she viewed one of the singer's videos posted online. So she clearly understands country talent when she hears it, but she is not a fan of Beyoncé as of 2013. Beyoncé released the song Bow Down in 2013, and Cole took her comments on the song to her Twitter account. She tweeted, "First, women need to stick together. Now, bees better bow down. Shaking my head." Country fan 50 Cent is another one to have an eye on up-and-coming country talent. Though 50 Cent is a rapper, he has allowed his music to be turned into country songs, with country remixes being released online, and even Shang-Chi star Simu Liu performing a country version of his song Into Club. It's safe to say, though, the rapper might not traditionally write for the country genre. That doesn't mean he won't fit in. 50 Cent has shown public appreciation for country artists. Last year, country artist Zach Bryan attended a 50 Cent concert and later met 50 Cent afterwards. 50 Cent shared a photo to his personal Instagram of the pair, sharing that Zach Bryan is the best new everything in country music, incredibly high praise. The rapper does not seem to hold Beyoncé in such a high standard though. Allegedly in 2015, the rapper backed up Grammy producers when they decided to give Beck an award at the Grammys instead of Beyoncé, and insinuated that Beck poured more work into his album than Beyoncé did. Azealia Banks is very much not on the Beyoncé train and has not been for a while. She also recently insinuated that another female artist would have been a better pick to release some country tunes. The American rapper shared some thoughts on Beyoncé after the release of her album Lemonade. Banks tweeted, "Don't think for a second that Beyoncé was intelligent enough to come up with any of those ideas on her own." Continuing with, "She's not an artist, she's a poacher." Banks and Beyoncé had a problem with each other back in 2014 when Banks released a remix of Beyoncé's song Partition without permission. So Beyoncé's lawyers filed a copyright claim against Banks. Now, years later, with the release of Beyoncé's country album, Banks has once again weighed in with her musical opinions, saying that she believes K. Michelle should be the one releasing country music instead. This was typed out on Banks' Instagram story. K. Michelle did respond with her X account, writing that she loves Beyoncé and will be supporting her like she always does. So a K. Michelle and Beyoncé collab seems way more likely than a Banks and Beyoncé. In addition to all of this, Banks also used her social media to criticize the album cover for Cowboy Carter, so yeah, she really is not loving it. American rapper Kaya is not fond of Beyoncé and has accused the Cowboy Carter singer of stealing music, copying music, and more using her social media. Kaya voiced her dislike for Beyoncé's album Renaissance, calling it devil-worshipping music. The pair's feud has been going on for years though, with Kaya notably referencing Beyoncé in distasteful ways in some tracks. A future collab love seems out of the question here. Lily Allen is a singer and songwriter from London and mainly releases music in the electro-pop or reggae genres. That podcast is where she shared her opinions on Beyoncé's country album. Talking to her co-host, one of Allen's big criticisms of the album was Beyoncé's choice to cover the song Jolene. Allen said she found it weird. It's quite an interesting thing to do when you're trying to tackle a new genre and you just choose the biggest song in that genre to cover. Once again, referencing Jolene. I mean, you do you, Beyoncé, and she literally is doing her. Or is she doing Dolly? Dolly Parton is actually all for Beyoncé's cover, and all for the album in general. Dolly Parton is featured on 2 songs. She also once requested that Beyoncé cover her song Jolene the same way Whitney Houston covered her song I Will Always Love You. During a 2022 interview on The Daily Show with Trevor Noah, Parton was asked about her request, to which she replied, "I don't know if she's even got the message, but wouldn't that be a killer?" Parton says in the interview, "I would just love to hear Jolene done in a big way, kind of like how Whitney did my I Will Always Love You, just someone that can take my little songs and make them powerhouses." It seems Beyoncé did get Dolly's message and we now have the amazing cover, but also, Dolly Parton, please give yourself credit, the song is equally as amazing when you perform it. Lily Allen did have more opinions on the country album to share. She said she viewed the entire thing as very calculated. On the album, Beyoncé addresses Jay-Z's speech in which he called out the Grammys for never awarding Beyoncé the Album of the Year despite her having the most Grammys in history. About this, Allen said, "When Jay-Z got up and said that thing, that was part of this campaign. It was before the album had come out or even been announced, and she was wearing the blonde wig and a cowboy hat." Allen later shared her thought that Beyoncé was coming for that market. Her co-host joked that Allen was working on her own country album, which would be the first country music Allen were to release, to which Allen replied, "But I'm not like trying to conquer the country market. I'm here because I've loved country music and always have loved country music. Not saying Beyoncé doesn't, but I tell stories in my songs, and quite a lot of country music does the same thing. I think it's well suited to what it is that I do." Allen also appeared to have shaded the way Beyoncé looks later on in the podcast, so overall, fans weren't happy, and a Beyoncé-Lily Allen collab is probably not on the way.
Recalling how she was often called brave in her early days in Hollywood, Rebel Wilson tells People Mag, "Did I fight in a war? Run into a burning building? No, it was that I dared to exist in a town where only thin women were valued." Dropping on April 2nd, the 44-year-old star's memoir is set to air out her life experiences and Hollywood tales, and obviously drop a few bombshells, such as her strained parental relationship, which Rebel touches on quickly in her new book, reflecting that her parents, Sue and Warwick Bounds, worked on the dog show circuit and her family was, as she says, one baby step above being carnies. But we'll talk about that in our very last segment. She experienced a difficult relationship with her volatile father, including, as she writes, 30 seconds of terror one day, when she and her sister Liberty wet their mattresses with water to cool them down during a hot summer in Australia. To quote Rebel, "Dad comes in, 'What the hell are you two doing?' And he brings up his palm and he hits me. Whack. He hits my sister too," she writes. But as the eldest, Wilson says she was hit the hardest. After Wilson's father died from a heart attack in 2013, she wrote that she'd actually drafted up a letter that she tucked into his suit pocket. She forgave him and wrote that she would strive to find love and no longer be afraid of it. It'd be a long time before that was the case for Rebel, however, who would end up choosing to be a willful sellout in order to get herself on her feet first. In 2002, Rebel Wilson was a law school student living at her family home in Sydney, sharing a bedroom with her sister. While she wanted to be an actor, she'd been rejected 4, soon to be 5 times from Sydney's National Institute of Dramatic Arts. Instead, she spent, quote, "all my money on law books, acting classes, and starting my own theater production company." Ultimately, Rebel does manage to save $2,000 and use it to produce The Westie Monologues, a play that lands her a tiny role in writer-director Paul Fench's film Fat Pizza. As Rebel writes, "This is when she learned the power of selling out. My cameo in the film Fat Pizza was so memorable, I was asked to be in the TV show of the same name. I played Tula, the overweight girlfriend of Habib. I make myself as fat and sloppy as I can. I wear unflattering eyeshadow colors and ill-fitting tracksuits. I eat donuts regularly to gain even more weight." Not everyone loved watching what Rebel made herself out to be in order to gain her fame. Quoting her, "Mom refuses to allow Fat Pizza to play in the house," she writes. "She doesn't want to see it because I look gross and she disapproves of my swearing in it. I flaunt my fat stomach on national TV, deliberately making myself look bad for comic effect. Mom doesn't understand. She just sees her daughter looking unsightly. I see an opportunity to break out. I was the first reoccurring female character on Fat Pizza who wasn't a sexy blonde bimbo." And she adds on that my role was to be the big fat whale that got laughs, and I willfully played into that. That is definitely a path less traveled that Rebel chose to follow for
a female comedian. And it's one that does intimidate male peers who believe women couldn't or shouldn't be this way, let alone be funny. Rebel shares examples of sexist experiences she had as a result in writers' rooms. To quote her after Fat Pizza, "My next big job was on a weekly sketch show on Network 10 called The Wedge. When I was cast, I was the only lead female writer and performer. The rest were guys. We all pitched characters and scripts we wanted to film, and I came up with some good ones, including Lucy Webster, Fat Mandy, and Carla and Kiki Bangs. I was becoming popular, and some of the men working on the show didn't exactly like the influence I was now wielding. To be honest, I think they were a bit shocked. I had 2 of the 3 highest ranking characters on the show. But by the second season, despite that high rank, Rebel writes that her popular characters and sketches were being ignored by production. To quote, "For months I would just sleep half the day in my designated office because no one was scheduling my sketches to be shot. There was nothing for me to do. I'd write scripts and they'd get ignored or rejected." Finally, Rebel confronts her friend working in production as to why she's being snubbed. "I blasted my friend in the office, which wasn't exactly fair, but these men were, I don't know, at an expensive boozy boys lunch across the street. I yell as I point to the production board of upcoming shooting days. I'm completely red in the face. I never ever yell at people. To me, this is level 100. I'm furious. My friend tries to say some bullshit like maybe my scripts weren't developed enough. I can't believe she's siding with those bad people. Later, I'll come to realize maybe she has a mortgage as well." Rebel writes she did never speak to that friend again, and The Wedge was actually cancelled after its 2nd season. Ultimately, it's a good thing because it allows Rebel to make her big break, with quite a bit of fat shaming along the way. It was less than a year after The Wedge had been cancelled, in 2008, when Wilson starred in Bogan Pride, a 6-part TV series that secured her a meeting with agents in Los Angeles. She went on to complete a law school degree at the University of New South Wales before moving to LA. On her 2nd day there, she's signed by William Morris Endeavors. Finally, after 29 unsuccessful auditions, she lands a role in 2011's Bridesmaids. The hit film effectively launched her international career, and within 2 weeks of its release, she's booked 6 movies including Pitch Perfect. But in those 6 weeks alone, Rebel heard decades worth of weight commentary. I recall getting a lot of comments like, "Oh wow, you're so brave." These were normally meant as, "Oh wow, you in your size 20 body strutting down the red carpet like you're hot? That's so brave." Or, "Oh wow, you're so obese, but you still get in front of the camera and smile. That's so brave." I was really put off by these comments, which 99% of the time came from other women. Why am I so effing brave? Because I'm just me? Rebel writes, continuing that the way they kept going on about being brave made me wonder how many negative comments were these women getting about their bodies in their daily life. I seemingly didn't care about society's pressure to be thin, but that pressure was so great in women's minds that it was as if I was fighting a war against the patriarchal gaze. Worse yet is Rebel explained that there is no collegiate or no supports between plus-size celebrities in Hollywood, who instead often belittle or make fun of each other's weights to deflect from their own. To quote her, "Some actresses would get offended if I called them plus size in this book, so I have to be careful with what I say. This is why I think Adele hates me," Wilson writes. "There was a moment when she was bigger and some people would confuse us for one another. I'm assuming because, to be fair, I've never asked her why she hates me." Wilson added that Adele always quickly turned away from her whenever Wilson was heading in her direction, to quote, "As if my fatness might rub off on her if I were near her for more than 30 seconds. That she didn't like being compared to, quote, Fat Amy," Wilson penned, referencing the Pitch Perfect character. While Rebel only talks in a hypothetical comparison, as a human being who's been on the internet, I can say I've actually seen plenty of people in the past comparing these women, especially when they were famous simultaneously while looking facially similar and being the only plus-size celebrities in the spotlight of the time. Ultimately, Rebel would go on to have a highly complicated relationship with her weight and an eating disorder, a combination coming from her consistent typecasting requirements and her mental illness that launched her career. Rebel references this struggle many times throughout the novel, such as when she returned to her LA apartment after shooting Pitch Perfect. To quote, "I'd had such a blast, made all these incredible new friends, and then just disappeared overnight. It sucks. The loneliness is back big time. I start yet another draft of my sitcom Super Fun Night. I order a family-sized pizza even though I know I shouldn't. I discover these amazing ice cream sandwiches in a shop down the road. I buy them almost every night, except for the nights where I'm trying to be good and I don't eat any junk food, only to obsess about the junk food I'm not eating, pretty much sitting on my hands so that I don't raid the fridge. It takes all my energy not to eat the sugar." Rebel writes that the binge eating felt like a battle between guilt and impulse. "I'm Fat Amy now. I can eat this tub of ice cream," the little devil inside me says. "They might need you for reshoots. You have to stay fat. You did 60 minutes on the treadmill girl, plus weights today at the gym. You can eat dessert, you deserve it. But for every self-indulgent thought like that, Rebel had a shameful one. She writes, but I know that this behavior isn't exactly healthy. I feel gross. And maybe if I lost weight, someone might fancy me. I'd love for someone to love me. But then there comes that little demon response. Everybody loves you, stupid. You're Fat Amy now. Only to have the shameful part of herself reminder, no one's going to love me like this. No one's asking me out on a date, are they? Rebel remarked that in that moment, that thought seeped into her core. She hadn't been on a date in 16 years by that point, and it was a thought she couldn't stomach. In fact, Rebel wouldn't have a date or lose her virginity until she was about 35. As revealed in her memoir, she was initially terrified when it came to physical intimacy. I was either so innocent in my teens or so busy making myself look grotesquely unattractive for comedic purposes that no romantic opportunity ever presented itself, she wrote. Rebel shared an interview with People Mag recently, as well as how she'd previously lied and told people she'd lost her virginity just to avoid questions. The book details her relationship with producer named Mickey, who she met via setup and lost her virginity to during a fling while filming How to Be Single. Mickey flew in that weekend, she wrote, and then it just happens. I finally have intercourse. I feel amazing. I go to the bathroom and I high-five myself. It's actually that same year that Rebel loses her virginity, 2016, that she experiences harassment on a film set that she'd hide until 2024. Only vaguely alluded to before now, Rebel cuts through red tape in her new memoir and airs out how Sacha Baron Cohen made her working experience on the Brothers Grimsby predatory and uncomfortable. She says she felt humiliated by that comedian who allegedly repeatedly pestered her to do a nude scene in the film. It felt like every time I'd speak to SBC, he'd mention he wanted me to go naked in a future scene. Wilson went on to explain that while the film was shooting in Cape Town, South Africa, she was summoned by Cohen via production assistant, saying she needed to film an additional scene. Rebel writes that once she walks into his room, SBC pulls his pants down and says matter-of-factly, okay, now I want you to stick your finger up my, and I'm like, what? No. Wilson continued to write, I was now scared. I wanted to get out of there, so I finally compromised. I slapped him on the ass, improvised a few lines as the character. The Struck by Lightning star said that after the scene, she called her agent and lawyer, but was encouraged to be professional and finish the film. She writes, the movie bombed, which to me was karma enough. I'm not about canceling anybody, and that's not my motivation for sharing the story. I'm sharing it now because the more women talk about things like this, hopefully the less it happens. Rebel had just popped her cherry and obviously experienced some uncomfortable times along the way, but it would take her quite a while to realize she wasn't heterosexual and, to quote her, was looking for a Princess Charming, not Prince. After meeting fiancé Ramona Agruma, however, Rebel underwent the hurdles of fertility issues next, writing that in 2020 a fertility doctor told her only if she lost weight she'd have a better chance of harvesting quality eggs. But even after losing 80 pounds, a doctor told Rebel and Ramona that the embryo she created with the sperm donor didn't appear strong enough to be viable. I felt such sadness, Rebel writes. I'm so alone and I don't know what to do. After another round of egg harvesting, her last viable embryo was implanted into a surrogate. Thankfully for the couple, they were able to welcome their daughter Royce Lillian in November 2022. So, reaching the end of our video, I want to bring us back to 2015 and Rebel's very stupid scandal. I found it interesting to hear this Aussie actress was doing a memoir after she'd been prior called out for lying and misrepresenting massive parts of her life in the aforementioned year of 2015. Prior to then, Wilson was believed to be 29 and had at various points claimed to grow up in the ghetto with bogan, aka working class parents. It was revealed shortly after Pitch Perfect 2 by an Australian tabloid that Wilson was actually 35 and that her real name, despite insistence otherwise, was Melanie. Now at the time of this first revelation, Salon's Rachel Kramer Bussell commented that this is just part of the experience of being an actor in Hollywood. Creating a mythology is just a way to work your way up, she went on to say, inventing new names, backgrounds, family histories, and yes, ages. But then time dug deeper into Wilson's records and found that she did in fact lie about her background and family history as well. Wilson's real name is Melanie Elizabeth Bounds, and despite having told the Australian Women's Weekly mag in 2014 that it's actually Melanie Elizabeth Bounds, and the report also goes on to find that Wilson did not grow up in the ghetto like she told Ellen DeGeneres in 2013. She actually attended upper crust Tara Anglican School and lived in the comfortable Castle Hill area. She makes references to her broke parents who were just above carnies in her memoir, and it seems like Rebel might just be lying again when she does. Which, let's be real, a stage name is one thing, but don't lie about your biography because in this day and age, it absolutely will be publicly debunked, which it already has, and she's referencing a debunked story story again. So,
starting off, we have Rebel Wilson. Now there's a lot of drama going on due to Rebel Wilson releasing a memoir, and it has shown us some insight into the actress's life. Rebel has revealed that her Grimsby co-star Sacha Baron Cohen is the previously unnamed Hollywood a-hole that is allegedly attempting to stop her writing about him in her upcoming memoir. He's hired a crisis PR manager and lawyers. He is trying to stop press coming out about my book, but the book will come out and you will all know the truth. I will not be bullied or silenced by high-priced lawyers or PR crisis managers, she said. Now the a-hole I am talking about in one chapter in my book is Sacha Baron Cohen. Now she went into more details saying that there were some incidents on set. She also claimed that when she was asked to do reshoots, including for a sex scene, which made her feel uncomfortable on set. I filmed the scene after demanding rewrites, but I still had to simulate having sex with this guy. I still had to kiss him repeatedly, noted Wilson. She then told producers that she would not be doing any promotion for the film, and Rebel added, the movie bombed, which to me was karma enough. Now there's Lola Gondini. Everyone made fun of Amber Heard about her issues with Johnny Depp, but Lola Gondini had a very similar incident while on set with him. They were on the set of the movie Blow in 2001 when the incident happened. On the Powerful Truth Angels podcast, Lola said that the director Ted Demme instructed her to burst out laughing in a scene where Johnny gives a monologue. But she didn't know that Ted didn't tell Johnny about this. Johnny Depp, when they say cut, walks over to me, comes up to me, sticks his finger in my face and goes, "Who the F do you think you are? Who the F do you think you are? Shut the F up," Lola said. "I'm out here and I'm trying to effing say my lines and you're effing pulling focus. You effing idiot." Now she said on the podcast that this was her first day on set and the first time she met Depp. "This was my first studio movie. I've just done indies until then, and I have the star who I have idolized, who I am excited to work with, ream me in my face. The only thing going through my head was, don't cry." Next up is Tina Fey. In September 2023, Rolling Stone published an expose about the allegedly toxic work environment on the set of The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon. Former employees claimed that Jimmy Fallon dropped his happy and kind persona behind the scenes and was prone to suddenly becoming snappish and ill-tempered. Now writers for the show also said that they received deflating feedback from Jimmy as well. Now the Rolling Stone piece inspired Twitter users to start digging up old dirt on Fallon. New Yorker archivist Aaron Overbay's contribution was an expert from Tina Fey's memoir Bossy Pants. In it, Fey recalls how Amy Poehler immediately let Fallon know that she was not going to kowtow him just because she was the new kid in the Saturday Night Live writer's room. Poehler was ready to let her raunch flag fly upon her arrival, but apparently one of the newbie's crass jokes offended Fallon. He turned to her in a faux squeamish voice and said, "Stop that, it's not cute, I don't like it," Fey wrote. Amy dropped what she was doing, went black in the eyes for a second, and wheeled around on him. "I don't effing care if you like it." Now Poehler seemed offended that Fallon was expecting cute comedy from the comedian. However, it seems that Poehler was able to get over her seemingly annoyance with Fallon's prudishness after she exerted her dominance, and Fey claimed that their relationship was amicable overall. On to Nikki de Jager. Nikki Tutorials, also known as Nikki de Jager, is a Dutch makeup artist and a beauty vlogger. Now after she came out as transgender to her 13 million subscribers on YouTube, she was invited to Ellen DeGeneres' show. Now as we all know, Ellen isn't exactly how she portrays to be. Nikki said that the friendly, welcoming atmosphere you see when watching Ellen isn't the reality in the studio. She suggested that Ellen was cold and distant when the cameras were turned off, and that Ellen didn't even say hello to her. She also said when she arrived, she was greeted by an angry intern who was a bit overworked, and that in her words, "I expected a Disney show, but I got a Teletubbies After Dark." Nikki added that she didn't receive the same VIP treatment as other celebrity guests, saying every guest at Ellen had a private toilet, but she didn't, and she couldn't even use the closest toilet to her because it was reserved for the Jonas Brothers. Now after she revealed this, Nikki's fans who watched the interview said they were inclined to believe the YouTuber. "You can tell in the interview that she was so disappointed about Ellen, like it breaks my heart," a YouTube commenter wrote. "I believe her. Ellen just seems odd to me in a way I can't quite explain. Her TV persona seems very fabricated," another added. Now let's talk about Lucy Liu. Bill Murray and Lucy Liu worked on Charlie's Angels together, and in a 2021 podcast interview, Lucy claimed that Bill lashed out at her while they were rehearsing a scene together for Charlie's Angels. Now Bill was reportedly frustrated with changes made to a scene in his absence from a previous rehearsal. Lucy then said Bill's comments were inexcusable and unacceptable. It said that he even stopped a scene in progress and pointed to Drew Barrymore, Cameron Diaz, and Lucy Liu, saying in order, "I get why you're here and you've got talent, but what the hell are you doing here? You can't act. But Lucy said, I was not going to just sit there and take it, so yes, I stood up for myself and I don't regret it, because no matter how low on the totem pole you may be or wherever you came from, there is no need to condescend or to put other people down, and I would not stand down, and nor should I have. Then there's Tippi Hedren. Tippi Hedren became an actress after she was discovered by director Alfred Hitchcock while appearing on a television commercial in 1961. Now, she achieved great praise for her work in two of his films, The Birds and Marnie. With all this success though, Tippi revealed that Hitchcock made offensive demands on her. She said, he stared at me and simply said, as if it was the most natural thing in the world, that from this time on, he expected me to make myself sexually available and accessible to him however and whenever and wherever he wanted. Now, Hitchcock's demands led to a horrible fight, according to her. She then told him Marnie would be their last film together, and later recalled how Hitchcock told her he would destroy her career. He said, I'll ruin your career, and he did ruin my career. He kept me under contract and paid me to do nothing for close to 2 years. Now, Tippi said this essentially ruined her career as a leading lady, and it's such a shame. Moving on to Kim Cattrall. Sex and the City stars Kim Cattrall and Sarah Jessica Parker have been engaged in a long simmering feud. On Piers Morgan's Life Stories in 2017, Kim said that Sarah could have been nicer about her refusal to take part in the third Sex and the City movie. She also added that the 4 stars of the show were never friends. Cattrall went further in February 2018 following the death of her brother Chris. After Parker wrote a comment of condolence on Cattrall's Instagram, Cattrall posted a photo of a message that read, I don't need your love or support at this tragic time, at Sarah Jessica Parker. Kim then accused Sarah of exploiting our tragedy to restore her nice girl persona, adding, your continuous reaching out is a painful reminder of how cruel you really were then and now. Now, Sarah has consistently denied that she has ever fallen out with Kim. Then there's the entire Glee cast. Now, it appears that the entire Glee cast had an issue with Lea Michele. Samantha War spoke up on her experiences with Lea when Lea spoke out in support of Black Lives Matter. Remember when you made my first television gig a living hell? Cause I'll never forget it, Samantha tweeted at Lea in all caps. I believe you told everyone that if you had the opportunity, you would shh in my wig, amongst other traumatic microaggressions that made me question a career in Hollywood. Now, Lea's close co-worker Naya Riviera also spoke about her negative experiences with her in her memoir. She said the actress kept threatening to call SAG about the unsafe working conditions, and she also said in regards to Lea, so I guess you can throw a fit, lock yourself in your trailer, stall production, yet still allegedly find time to leak stories to the press. Next up is Freddie Prinze Jr. In 2010, Freddie Prinze Jr. joined Kiefer Sutherland's action series 24, and when he gave an interview about his time on the show a few years later, he didn't have anything positive to say about the star. Freddie said that Kiefer was unprofessional and that he hated every moment of working with him. It turns out that Kiefer was more than a little unprofessional while filming their scenes together. Freddie says, that's not me talking trash, I'd say it to his face. I think everyone that works with him has said that. I just wanted to quit the business after that, so I sort of stopped. Freddie continued on in his interview. Yikes. Now imagine being so horrible on set that your co-star quit their profession. That is just so messed up. And finally we have Steven Seagal. Steven Seagal is notoriously difficult to work with, so I feel like if you still hire him, that's on you. Now, after hosting Saturday Night Live in 1991, Steven was banned from the show by producer Lorne Michaels because he was difficult to work with. While they never got too specific, the crew admitted that they did not like working with the martial artist and even found him annoying. Now, the show's cast and crew were on edge and almost ran an entire show without a host. Then fellow actor John Leguizamo opened up about working with Steven. He said, I'm playing this master sergeant and we come in for rehearsals and he says I'm in command, everything I say is law, and I was like, ha ha ha. I started cracking up because he sounded stupid. He came up and taekwondo'd me against the brick and hit me with his elbow. He's 6'5" and he caught me off guard and knocked all the air out of me, and I was like, why? Why'd he slam me against the wall? We were rehearsing. Now, in addition to getting physical on set, Steven is also known for getting physical off set as well.